Brothers and sisters, the Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Welcome to our fall Congregational Forum. Really appreciate your presence here and any and all feedback that you're willing to offer the consistory as we kind of continue to navigate both this season of transition, but also as we lean into the 2026 budget. So really grateful for your presence, and let's begin by asking God's blessing on our conversation. Lord, we thank you for gathering us in to worship and also to attend to the business of the church. We know that we are called to administrate all the graces that we are given, and that includes both our ministry and financial resources. And so we ask that you will bless our conversations so that we can continue to shape a good plan for the life of our ministry and for faithful use as stewards of the resources you've given to us as a congregation. We pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen. So you should have received they're the same thing. There's a stand over there. There's a stand in the back. They have some handout. They have a single handout on them. That's what you'll need for a little bit when we get to some of the financial conversation. But there's other important things to talk about in the life of our community right now. It's a significant moment in TCC's history. And this past Tuesday, the consistory was meeting, but there was also a classis meeting of the Great Lakes City Classis. And during that meeting, TCC was highlighted in two ways that I think are important for us to be celebratory and to give thanks to God for. So at the meeting, Aiden Hillman, who's been with us since the beginning of the summer of 2024, when he was serving as a Calvin Jubilee Fellow among us, and then he and Annika went and got married in August of last year, and Aiden then finished up his degree at Calvin University and has since started his studies at Western Theological Seminary. And in the midst of that time, he was hired on as to be our Director of Youth Ministries. Aiden has now officially come under the care of our congregation to seek ordination. We moved on that back in September, I believe. But at our October meeting of the Great Lakes City Classis, Aiden is now officially under care as a student seeking ordination in the Reformed Church in America. And so really grateful to God for that. TCC has such a wonderful legacy of that, both children of the congregation that have gone on to seminary, but also many people that were involved in ministry that have felt the call to go on toward ordained ministry. So Aiden, we give thanks to God for you and for his call on your life. And Aiden's begun seminary, so if you ever need something to talk to him about, you can talk to him about his Old Testament class, or you can talk to him about his Christian ministry classes that he's a part of. And it's good to celebrate you, Aiden, and God's faithfulness in your life. So know that our hearts are clapping inside for you. And Ken's even outside his body. That's amazing. Wow, look at that. Kind of a unique bookend sort of event. And then at our classis meeting, the resolution of Pastor Tim's retirement was also read. You have to officially have a resolution read on the floor of classes and for it to be accepted in order for you to be able to retire. And so that was read for Pastor Tim at the meeting, at the classis meeting. And one of the cool parts for us as a consistory is we kind of turned the Zoom live on in our meeting and got to watch both Aiden and Tim's important moments in their ministry life. So that was an important moment. And also at our meeting on Tuesday, at the end of our meeting, we signed the covenant of separation with Pastor Tim, which goes into effect on November 2. So just a reminder for Tim's stuff, Tim's last sermon that he's going to preach in Sunday school are next week, Sunday on the 26th. And so he's getting geared up for that. So pray for him as he prepares for that next week. And then November 2, which is important for several reasons, two of which were a part the forum here today. We're going to talk about Consecration Sunday. That's a big part of November 2, and it still will be, but that's also Pastor Tim's final Sunday here. And so there will be some moments in our service where we will give thanks to God for our life together as a congregation under Tim's spiritual and faithful pastoral care for us. So those are some consistory news. The consistory also wants to give you just a quick update. As Dave Klaus and I were talking about this update, both of us, whether we can communicate it effectively or not, want to make sure that the congregation knows that God is providing so faithfully through you in this time of transition. I have been absolutely delighted ever since the event this past August, to invite people to know what the teams are up to, what the needs of the team are. We were even reimagining some teams that had kind of fallen asleep over the past couple of years, but also starting up some new teams. So I just want to give you a flavor of our gratitude as a consistory to you, the congregation, for stepping up in such meaningful and wonderful ways. I was knowing Tim was going to retire. We had this transition plan. We went through the input sessions. We shared with you back in July the plan that we had. You have been so supportive in prayer and in encouragement and in showing up and being a part of that. So just here on behalf of the former transition team, the current admin team and consistory, we give thanks to God for you and your faithful willingness to steward your gifts and your ministry among us. So that being said, the adult education team, we had one in the past, but by and large, Tim and I were doing a lot of the planning for adult ed, so the team kind of slowly went to sleep over time. We reimagined that and have had our first meeting and are scheduling our second meeting. That team is taking responsibility starting in January for the adult the adult discipleship gatherings that we will be a part of. That doesn't just include adult Sunday school, but it includes things like women's Bible study, even though they don't need us at all. Marilyn's like, no way, don't include us because we don't need you. They are for sure self-sufficient. However, we like to claim them as a part of us, even though we have nothing to do with it. But they fall underneath the adult ministry team. And the men's Bible study is off and rolling. That's been a good beginning to that, and so we're really grateful for that. So that would be underneath. And anything else that we can do as a congregation, and that'll be especially true in this sabbatical year where we have some special opportunities to follow Jesus faithfully as a congregation and do some new learning together. So that's been exciting to see that begin. The hospitality team. This can be confusing for people, but there's one hospitality team with two sub-teams, okay? So there's one group that's working on fellowship. So that group is responsible to help us love one another by getting us together more often, right? So you heard Pastor Tim, I think a couple weeks ago, once again slip up when he was talking about sips and nibbles, right? So he did that, I think, last week, Sunday again. So talking about that and dinner groups and these opportunities for us to gather together. So that sub-team has been working on that. I know they've met at least once. I think they have their second meeting coming up to talk over that stuff. And then there's a second team underneath the hospitality team, which we're calling the unfolding team, helping people that are kind of new to our community feel like they're being welcomed well. And so like a great example of that this morning is Eve Graham, who's on that team. She showed up like 20 minutes early, and she was greeting people as she came in. She and I were conspiring together about a young couple that was sitting back there. Okay, what are their names? So we're trying to be kind of aware of new people in our midst and making sure that we're welcoming them well into our midst, okay? And so that's the hospitality team. Great bunch of people that are serving both for fellowship and for welcoming new people into the life of our community. Number 3 is probably the newest for TCC. One of the gifts of having two pastoral staff, myself and Tim, or Tim and Paul, is that there were two pastors, and we have shared the visitation of people when they're in the hospital or when they're homebound. We've been able to kind of tag team that as pastoral staff. With Tim's retirement, we recognize that I'm going to continue to do that pastoral work, but it would be really nice if we had something to come in and support and complement that pastoral work. And so that is the congregational care team. And I'm so excited that 17 or 18 people among you in your congregation have signed up to be a part of that. That was a huge gift to me to see all those people who are willing, and we've got a great plan. Remember at the input session, if you were a part of it, those retired ministers among us were all saying things like, we're willing to help with this, we're willing to help with this. So we have Dale and Rich and Paul, and each one of them are going to kind of help me facilitate that with all these people that have signed up for it. And so I would love to go into more detail, but that was for the people who are on the team. So they got all that. We've had our first meeting, and really excited that. I really think it's going to be a good thing for our folks to see more than the pastor, right? So it's meaningful to receive a visit from a pastor, and 2 pastors is great, but I believe deeply that it's going to be a wonderful gift from God. I don't know if it's going to be better, but it's going to be really, really good in a new way. And I trust that God is going to bless that ministry as people have risen up to do that. So I've gotten a lot of energy watching all the folks in our community step up to do those sorts of things. A lot of other ministry teams are rocking and rolling. I think of YMT, I think of Children's Ministry Team, I think of Worship Planning Team. There's so many other teams, but they've been rock and rolling for a while, and they continue to rock and roll. And I want you to know they continue to do really good work on our behalf. So thank you to all the teams that are doing that work. Another one of the teams that we've kind of, I wouldn't say reimagined, but we've maybe re-empowered in a way, if that's fair, Jerry. The finance team this year was hugely helpful in the shaping of the plan that you're about to get your hands on. And so, Jerry, I want to thank you on behalf of the whole team for your team's work in helping shape that and kind of guiding consistorial conversation, giving us what we need in order to have meaningful conversations. And we really did this past week have some meaningful conversations because of the help of the finance team. So with that being said, I'm going to invite you up, Jerry. Jerry's going to really do 2 things. He's going to walk. You have a sheet of paper. If you didn't get one, raise your hand. I'll bring one to you. But that sheet of paper has a page 1. Be on page 1 first. Okay, page 1 is 2026 budget. Big numbers. If you want a copy of the detailed budget, that was sent to you in your email in the call to worship. And if you really, really, really want a printed one, I've got 5 here, okay? And you can thumb wrestle for them, all right? So that's the first side. The second side is the big picture financials, which Jerry will also cover. So Jerry, we're yours.
Normally I talk loud enough, but I thought better to take the mic and have this in front of me. The other thing that Mary would know is I usually like to wave my hands, which means I drop the mic, so I think that's another positive. The finance team, Kent and Dave and I met this summer, started to chat about the transition team and what that meant. On the finance team, our treasurer is always a member, so Ann Bauman is on that. Ruth Howard, Deidre Deering, Craig Homan, Dave White, and myself are on that team. And then we start to meet. So we've gone through a lot of different variations of that budget. We went through the detail, we added, subtracted, and did all that with help from Kent and the administrative team. So we decided that we would send out the detailed budget for you to take a look at so you could see all the detail to that, and then print out just a summary that we had. So I want to go through and compare the 25 to 26. On the detailed budget, you'll find that there were like 4 columns. And those 4 columns basically showed 25 and 26, assuming that we would include some increases in compensation for staff, and then we added the transitional team recommendations to get to the final 26 numbers. So I'm going to come back to the income or the donation side of it. So I want to go through the expenses first. So admin salaries and benefits, very large item. So in 25 it was $348,000. So how did we get to the 308 for this 26 year? So you start with the 348, you subtract out Tim's compensation, which was approximately $98,000. We had some increases to staff for another 12, and then on top of that was the transition team's recommendation for 46, and it comes back to the 308. So big picture, that's how all that flowed together. We had an additional add, which was the grant revenue. While Pastor Ken is on sabbatical, from the Lilly Foundation we received some funds, and some of that money will be used internally. So we had a line item that we called grant revenue. Within congregational ministry, that's where that expense shows up as well. So that's the reason for the increase there. Missional outreach was basically the same for discipleship was really an increase in the youth ministry part. Pastor Kent and I got together with Aiden. I'm trying to find Aiden. And we chatted about that, and Aiden wanted to do some additional things. And so we added additional funds there as well. For the facilities management, we've added an item which we've always had called special projects, and that's $15,000 this year. In prior years, it was only $10,000. So that was kind of our increase there, along with other increases in the building, care, insurance, and landscaping, and all of that. So that got us to our total of $517,446. And then we took a look at our donations. And so based on the 25 budgeted amount based on the commitments, that was $460. So we just rolled that number over. Then we worked with our outside consultant, AJ, and I asked Ann to work with her as well to go through the budgeted amounts for this year compared to the contributions. And then we found that there are some that have contributed but did not have anything for commitments. So we looked at that. There are some that haven't given much at all yet. We had her take a look at what our patterns have been for giving, and so we then put in $45,000 to list that as additional donations. Now, after Consecration Sunday, later in November, the finance team will be getting together to try to take a look at what does that mean now for the budget for this next year. How close are we, and can we reasonably still continue to use that $45,000? So that got us to the $515, which means we're short by a couple $1,000. So we move from there then to this back of the sheet.
Jerry, can I speak?
Yep.
Can I speak?
Sure.
Because I didn't do this during my report a moment ago, because I think it'll give a little bit of context. So just go back with me for a moment to the hospitality team report. If you look at the detailed budget, which you necessarily don't have on you unless you can look at what you printed off or on your phone, there's an item on there which is called Administrative Food Coordinator. You'll remember a part of our plan from the transition team was to hire someone that we were calling the Coordinator of Food Ministry. That was something that we put forward as a transition team. That was something that you as a congregation then heard about back in July and were able to speak into. At the meeting, there was great affirmation for that, and there continued to be great affirmation. Such great affirmation that a couple people in our congregation, three gentlemen specifically, said we would be willing to kind of fill that role, okay? Which created a long conversation between myself, Pastor Tim, the admin team to say, is this what we imagined it to be, or is it something different? And how do we kind of affirm and receive the gift of people wanting to give of their energy, saying, hey, we can do that as volunteers, why hire for it? So we as a consistory have received that with gratitude, have received that offer from those three volunteers. I don't have their permission to name them, but you might be able to imagine who they are right now. The consistory knows exactly who they are. And so they are willing to do that. We've received that. We kept that number in, though. That's like $28,600 in that line item. And you might be fairly wondering, well, why did you keep that in if you made the decision not to hire it? Great question. Because we received that just this past Tuesday, and we wanted to keep that number in there, knowing that we're not going to use all of that money, but we expect that we might use some of that money for different kinds of ministry opportunities that those three's volunteering now allows us to do. And so I want to have further conversations with them and the admin team about ways we can now utilize that money to still make sure what we wanted to do with hiring that position, we can still do. So do expect that number to change when you see it in December, that we don't expect to spend 28.6. From speaking off the cuff, I would say it would be well over less than half of that we would be using. But again, I don't want to give detail because we haven't hammered out those numbers. So we need a few more weeks to play with that. But it's a fun thing to be able to talk about and do, because it'll make our numbers better, and it's a pretty cool gift that's being offered to our church. So is that helpful, Jerry?
It is very helpful. Yep, thanks, Ken. The consistory also gave us two other things to do. One, over the last 5 or 6 years, we've accumulated a lot of cash. And the question was, well, what are we doing with the cash? And right now we're not doing much with it other than having it banked. So there were two things that we wanted to identify. We wanted to now go through an exercise to set aside funds, we would say our safety cash, our reserve cash, for both our operating accounts and for the building accounts that we have. So trying to set that aside. So on the back side of the page, I showed operating cash as of November 30th. So that's the $226,000. So then we went through, and by the recommendation by our team as we went through it, we arrived at having 3 months of cash basically available. So if you take 500,000 divided by times 25%, you come up with the 125. Now, what we have not been doing is we have not been investing that cash. So by adopting this and understanding that that's a long-term position, we are now looking at how we can invest that cash and actually earn some money off from it. So setting aside those dollars then allows us to do that investing. So you take the 225, subtract 125, it leaves $100,000 left. We then looked at, and we're going to talk about it next, is, well, what are we doing building-wise? So we came to the conclusion that we could move that 100 out of our operating fund and put it into our building reserve account. That didn't leave, so it would still leave $125,000 in the operating account, and then looking at typically, we're estimating by the end of the year we'll generate another $15,000 of cash that we could also probably move to the building reserve account for future expenditures. Now, all of that is, as Kent would say, we're all in it. So from my perspective, I think I've gone through 4 different budget preparations, and we've got more to come. So our finance team will be getting together in November to kind of finalize and put all this together for the December meeting. So we'll be doing that. So that's where we got to how much cash was available. There still might be some additional cash, and we could move that down to the building reserve account. So that was our process for that. In the building reserve account, this year we're spending somewhere around $115,000. That encompasses the new windows that got installed and the work on the kitchen and a few other smaller projects. So that basically took care of all of the cash that we had in that building reserve account. So at the bottom then it shows the beginning cash of the 110, which includes $100,000 transfer from the building reserve. We've set aside $15,000 in the operating budget, and that cash will get transferred into this building reserve account each year. And the expenses that we identify that need to be expended will come out of that $15,000. We also decided we would like to have $50,000 set aside as a reserve for that account, basically to set aside for some major thing that would come up. So we set $50,000 aside. And then we identified at least 2 major projects. One is a flat roof that's over the educational wing. We have a quote on that today. It will cost us $100,000. They told us in 3 or 4 years it might last that long, so we've done that. And then basically increase that cost to reflect increase in cost. So that ends up being the $127,500 that shows up in 29. We had a quote come back on the parking lot as far as work getting done there as well, and that's the $32,500 in a couple of years. But at the end of 27, So in '29, we don't have enough cash set aside to do the roof. So at this point, the consistory is considering how are we going to raise that money? What will be the process in order to do that, to get to that construction phase? In addition, I think we're going to continually ask about the building and what projects do we have to do. We have a great investment in this building, and we've at least identified those two, and so now we want to build on that, and we want to find out other things that might be coming up that we need to take care of. So, any questions? Kent, you want to make a comment?
No, I want them to ask questions, but if you are going to ask a question, wait for me to give you a microphone so people online can hear it. Okay? Jerry?
So, for 2025, ignoring any special requests that went out to particular individuals to say, hey, we got a project, could you fund it? So this would be normal donations to the church. At the end of the year, compared to what we will spend to what our income will be projected, what is the plus or minus?
The plus or minus is, so if you look at that operating cash, there's a line that says October, December income, and it shows $15,000. So for the months of October, November, and December, based on our best estimate, we'll still generate an additional $15,000.
Okay, so if our, so from our planned expenditures and actual, from our planned expenditures and our actual expenditures and our income we're going to be 15,000 ahead, is that?
Correct. And that obviously depends upon what actual expenditures are and actual giving is at the end of the year. So that will mean probably after the first of the year, the finance team will be back together again, chatting about how did we actually end the year up.
Okay, now, and going back to page 1, you define the additional donations?
So not everyone has made a faith promise commitment in '25, but based on our collections, we know that we're going to collect more than the 460.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Give Jerry some hard ones.
No. Ann would like to have you ask more questions because she's up next.
My question is, the administrative food planner, and I know that's like $28,600 that's budgeted, and I'm hearing that there are 3 people that have stepped up to do this. I guess I have a couple of questions. Does this include, was this ever a part of the food, or is that another category for like the consecration dinner and?
Yeah, so some of these meals, like the consecration, oftentimes there's a basket out there that we usually come really close to offsetting the cost for some of these meals. Some of them are budgeted. Like if you look through the detailed budget, you'll also see other events and kickoff picnics and things like that. So this is not this was not the food expenditure built into that number. This was for the person.
Okay, so we have 3 people that are volunteering. So what was the purpose of doing this to begin with, to have this
That
food
person
planner?
being hired?
Yes.
Well, we're losing our greatest asset when it comes to hospitality. Tim was a faithful gatherer of people, and he also knew how to cook a meal. But as importantly, he knew how to get the volunteers raised up to do that, right? And so we thought, well, in the absence of someone like him, can we hire a position for this to just coordinate our food ministry efforts, along still with volunteers? And these people have stepped up to say, we would like to fill some of that role, along with staff who will help complement the raising up of volunteers.
With staff that we already have.
Not staff doing the work, but helping to raise up volunteers. So for instance, if it's a meal like Consecration Sunday, the consistory serves at that meal, so I'm taking responsibility to make sure that there are volunteers for that. And then this group is going to make the food for us.
Okay. So those 3 people are going to be the people getting the volunteers
The turkey
together.
dinners, yep. Servants community stuff. Some of this is still a work in progress, identifying people who can do some of the help with volunteering, but yeah.
Okay. I'm just thinking that's a huge job. Tim did it so well. We just don't even realize how much it took to do what he did. I just want to make sure that it doesn't end up being staff having to do some of this.
Thank you on behalf of staff, but I can tell you the people who have said to do this, they want to do this for staff, and they want to help make sure that it doesn't fall on them, and I believe them when they say it.
Okay.
Yep.
Then that's good.
And some oversight of the kitchen too, yeah. Yeah, that's what you were asking, right, Nancy? Oversight of kitchen, coordinator, volunteers, thank you for that. Ruth, then Jesse.
And just building on that point about all that work Tim did around that, I think none of us really understood all of that volunteer coordination work. So actually, I liked the fact when you said we were going to probably reserve half of that money, because you actually may find that you need half of that money to hire somebody in a different sort of way, but maybe not the same magnitude of what you needed before. I mean, I thought that was prudent to reserve some of those funds.
Yeah, we've been using the word hybrid possibly down the road. Yeah. Jesse, coming behind you with the mic.
Kind of wondering, I think that over the years, Tim has done a lot of the shopping too.
Yeah, this team is going to do all the shopping, all the
Okay.
prep. Yep, assist with serving.
Okay.
Yep.
All
So
right.
it's getting the food here too. Yep. I'm glad you have energy around this particular item because this is what's created most of the meaningful conversation as we've been plowing through this budget. So I'm glad you're attuned to that. Any
So
other
if there
questions,
if there aren't any more questions, then I'll turn it over.
I just want to read people's body language a second. When I see it, I'm going to go there. But I just as we as a consistory think about making some of these moves with three months worth of reserves, and about making some of these decisions about having money in the bank for some of these future capital projects that we're going to need done around here. Does that feel like a good thing to the gathered body in here? Does that feel good to you that we're thinking about doing this stuff? You don't have to, you just kind of give me some physical mojo. Like, okay, all right, good.
Yeah, it's been about 50 years since I took accounting in college, but I just was curious about the first page, the negative 50,000. Looks like there's a $50,000 deficit for this year.
For 25?
Yeah, what does that mean there?
So out of there was additional $20,000 that was given in the prior year before 25, and that helped to offset that 50. So the budget itself showed like a 30, but in carrying forward that number, I couldn't include the savings amount. So that's what I changed.
Yeah, so if you were to look at the third quarter numbers right now, you would still see that our giving is considerably stronger than our expenses this year. So that does not mean we're 50 in the red for this year. Just in our planned projections, that's what it was showing last year.
So as part of this, that safety cash, so Ann, Dave White, and Craig Holman are getting together to take a look at how we would invest that money. We really haven't done a good job of getting it invested, so they are. And the other thing is where do we bank? And as our current bank doesn't seem to be very helpful with us getting that money invested, so we're going to be looking at other banks, which might make some changes to a lot of different things. Can't you ask further questions?
This is really just more of a comment than a question, but as those investment guidelines are finalized, I think it would be helpful for the congregation to publish those or to disclose how we're investing the funds. Just
Duly noted, thank you.
Okay. So I think you're up, Ann.
I have more fun things to discuss. Excuse me, Jerry. I wore my glasses today, so I know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we have some new functionality that you can see on our website. If you've gone to our website lately, look up there in the menu, and you can see we have a button where you can give online. So this is very exciting. We're probably in our unofficial survey of local churches, we were the only one that didn't allow this. So I want to encourage you to go and test it out and give online. If you do want a refund of your test amount, we will prayerfully consider it. So this is exciting. It uses Realms software, which is the current church management software we use. We didn't have to pay extra to Realm to access this feature. But if you go online and click that give button, this is what you're going to see. And you can see you put in your amount. You can choose for it to be a single donation, or you can set up recurring donations. You can set a start date for those recurring donations, an end date. And then if you click to the next page, you can see that there is a checkbox at the top where you could choose to offset the nominal fee that it does charge us to use credit card, debit card, or ACH transfer. So it is a pretty nominal fee, but you do have the option of covering it for us if you want. The fee is, I believe, around 3% for credit or debit, and it's about half that for ACH transfers. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. Yeah, so since it's connected to Realm, as soon as you hit donate or whatever that blue button says, and it processes, it automatically shows up on your giving spot on Realm. So if you haven't looked at Realm lately, you can pop in at any point to your account. If you need login information, let me know. And you can check your giving year to date. You can check your giving towards your pledge. These gifts will automatically go right to your account and show up there as well. So that's that. I do have one other way that we wanted to offer for you to be able to give, and that is a very fun form. So I have these papers available if you want to fill them out to allow the church to use ACH to withdraw money from your bank on a recurring basis or however you prefer. If we fill out this, you include a voided check. I'm sure you've done it before. And then the church would set that up for you. You can stop it at any point. And there is no fee associated with this if you just fill out the paper and we set that up for you. So, any questions about those two new methods of giving?
Yes, my late friend, who was a member here, Bill Brown, he was a CPA, and he suggested a couple years ago that folks who are in their early 70s and have a retirement account, when you're 73 now, you have to start taking required minimum disbursements. And that counts as income if you take it in possession yourself. But if you have that directly sent to the church or whatever other charity you want to donate to, that's not taxable income. So that's what I do, what Kathy and I do, and I know Bill did, and I think Amy still does. And anyway, there might be other people in the church that do it also, but it's a good idea. And it would save you a few bucks on your taxes every year.
Thank you, Bob.
You might want to mention that right from your brokerage account, the check needs to be made out to the church. So you couldn't withdraw it and then donate it to the church.
True, yes.
And have it be taxed.
Right. Yeah. We have several very nerdy people in this congregation who would love to chat with you about setting up a donor advised fund or RMDs or how to give cryptocurrency. If you have an oil field in Nebraska, we'd be happy to accept it. So yeah, if you have questions on any of those things or want to know how to structure giving differently, let us know and we'd love to chat.
Did you write that material yourself, or did you get that from Ken?
That's all mine.
Wow,
Come on, Ken.
you're really rubbing off on her.
So speaking for the baby boomers, just wanted to point out that if we collect $515,000 next year, and that's all donated online, we need to come up with an extra $15,000 to hit our budget.
Yes.
And people don't check the box to cover their costs.
Correct.
So check the box.
Check the
Hey,
box.
hey, this is anecdotal, but I think it's significant because she knows what she's talking about. Tell the group what you learned from AJ. AJ is our contracted.
Yeah, AJ
accountant.
warned us, don't miss the forest for the trees because the donations that we expect to receive online will far and away cover the 3% fees. Though we anticipate gifts far in excess of a 3% fee. So
That is her experience of churches that do
yes,
it.
AJ services many churches, and that was her experience. Ruth.
Fonda first, because she's closer.
You mentioned that you would give out information on how to access Realm.
Yes.
It might be a great idea to put that in the bulletin again or something like that, because I'm not sure what the participation level is, but I'm guessing there's a few who aren't connected. Yeah.
Fonda,
No.
you would be absolutely correct.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I just want to build on some of the ideas that the finance team has talked about, and Ann, you had also shared from talking to other churches that those types of online giving and putting QR codes in a bulletin or on a screen for things like Christmas when there's a lot of guests in the facility, or Easter when people are in the facility, and a lot of young people and even older people don't carry a lot of cash these days. So they also talked about the amount of increased giving they've seen on those types of occasions when we make it really easy for people to give.
Yeah, I would say that's where we anticipate the greatest use for this give button online is maybe not necessarily from our regular givers who have established methods in place, but for new guests or online viewers, or like Ruth said, like Christmas or whatever.
Nikki didn't have a question anymore because Ruth answered it. Yep. Say the same thing. She's saying ditto to Ruth. Are we good there? Okay, just larger questions that you heard today. We have a little bit of time, so we might as well use it if we need it. Are there any looming questions about the transition, about what's going on with consistory right now as far as the spending plan? I really want to, if there are not, but let me pause to make sure I'm not rushing to the next thing. Feeling okay? All right. So I know that Dave Klaus is watching. Dave's had 3 procedures on his ear in almost the same amount of weeks, which has precluded him from getting out and about. But as I thank the admin team, Rob, who's not here today, but Dave Christensen, and Dave Klaus, who's online, and Jerry, thank you for your work on behalf of the finance team. But Dave Klaus has been working pretty hard this year as far as VP, doing the transition team work, leading our efforts for that, and also pretty integral in these finance conversations. So Dave, I know I can't see you, but thank you for your service in that way as well. So looking forward, not next week, but the following Sunday is Consecration Sunday. And so you already heard Pastor Tim invite you to be at that meal It's going to be tasty, like always. It's going to be right after worship. There's no Sunday school that day. You can sign up out here. If you're a boomer or you're an Xer, you can sign up on the table out here. If you're a millennial or a Gen Z, you can sign up online. It's all available. You can even go, if you want to mix it up and be crazy as a boomer, you can also sign up online, okay? So there's lots of different ways to sign up to be a part of that meal, but please come. The consistory is going to help serve it, and but also on that day, like usual, we're going to gather in the faith promise pledges. That is a really helpful tool for us. I don't see those as a pastor. We as an admin team don't see those as a pastor. Those of you who have served as treasurer, like Ann serving this year, Beth has served before, Sandy has served before, I know others of you have as well. That is the person that's kind of seeing that, more paying attention to the number than anything else on that sheet. And so we can add those numbers up and we can make better plans as we move forward if we know those numbers. We can extrapolate some information too if we need to, but it's always better to get as many of those pledges in because it just helps us prepare best, okay? And so in an effort to be extra frugal, Renee and I decided this year we're not going to mail out all the faith promise letters and cards. We're going to mail some of them out. I hope to not mail any of those to anyone who is in here because Ann's got a box of them up here. She's got a little sheet. We're going to check your name off if you grab one today. And just make us feel good and grab one. Even if, please use it too, but just make us feel good. We won't have to mail it to everybody then, and that'll just save a lot. Postage is a lot of money now. And so we're going to try to save a little bit of our resources by not mailing those out. So please find Ann or find me. As soon as she and I can get our hands on some pens, then we can, if anybody's got a pen to give to Ann or me, that would be great because I didn't bring one in. But fellowship pads will have one. So you can find us after the meeting, and we will give you those and check your name off, and then you won't receive one in the mail. Okay? Sound good? So please come to consecration. Please participate in the faith promise pledges if the Lord calls you to do so, and we will use those reverently and sincerely to continue to build our budget into 2026. And this is mainly for the November 2 and Consecration Sunday, but we'll just get a head start on it. Thank you for your faithful giving to the ministry here at TCC. And just know, too, that when Jerry didn't necessarily mention it, but didn't need to, when you look at our missional giving on the detailed budget, you can do the math yourself and see how much of our budget is going toward giving outside of ourselves. While you do that, add about another $20,000 to that number of CAF funds that have gone out from our congregation this year, and that puts us well above 14% of giving outside of ourselves. TCC has always had the goal of at least being 10%, and we're still hanging out well above that. So we give thanks to God for your faithfulness and giving so that we can continue to do the work here and beyond here. So thanks in Christ. If there are no more questions, you can go in peace to love and serve the Lord. But please come and find me or Ann, and we will give you your letter from Dave and your pledge card. Go in peace.